The Amazon was alive. An emerald ocean of trees stretched as far as the eye could see. The air hung heavy and hot, thick with the smell of damp earth and exotic blooms. Vines twisted like ropes, connecting towering trees. The jungle was a force, ancient and powerful. Ethan, a seasoned adventurer, felt a tremor of excitement. He had explored scorching deserts and icy mountains, but the Amazon held a different kind of magic. With him were his friends Mia, Carlos, and Elena, their faces etched with a mix of anticipation and fear. They had faced challenges before, but nothing quite like this. Leading the way was Raphael, their indigenous guide. Raphael moved with the grace of a jaguar, his eyes scanning the dense foliage. He knew the secrets of this jungle, understood its whispers and warnings. His presence was a reassurance, a beacon of knowledge in the heart of the unknown. They were deep in the jungle now, miles from civilization. The air buzzed with insects, their symphony a constant reminder of the wildness around them. The jungle was a living, breathing entity, and they were mere guests, treading carefully in its presence. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues. The jungle transformed, shadows lengthening, the air growing cooler. Raphael chose a spot near the riverbank for their camp. He moved with practiced efficiency, his machete flashing as he cleared a small area. Ethan watched, impressed by Raphael's skill. He and his friends worked together, unpacking supplies, pitching tents, and gathering firewood. Soon, a comforting fire crackled in the gathering darkness, casting flickering shadows that danced around them. They ate their simple meal quickly, a comfortable silence settling over the group. Despite the fire's warmth, a chill ran down Ethan's spine. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes observing their every move. The jungle soundscape shifted. The daytime symphony of insects was replaced by a deeper, more guttural chorus. Howls and screeches echoed through the trees, a chilling reminder of the predators lurking in the darkness. Night had fallen completely, draping the jungle in an inky blackness. The fire crackled, the only source of light in the vast darkness. Stories and jokes were exchanged, but the laughter felt forced, a thin veil over the palpable tension. A low growl, barely audible, sent shivers down their spines. Raphael stiffened, his gaze sweeping the darkness beyond the firelight. He listened intently, his face etched with concern. "Something is out there," he whispered, his voice barely a murmur. The hair on Ethan's arms stood on end. He trusted Raphael's instincts. The growl came again, closer this time, followed by the snapping of twigs. Fear, primal and immediate, gripped Ethan's heart. He could feel the others stiffen beside him, their eyes wide with terror. Raphael grabbed his spear, his face grim. "Stay close," he commanded, his voice low and urgent. They huddled closer to the fire, their faces pale in the flickering light. The jungle held its breath, the silence amplifying their fear. A figure emerged from the darkness, walking towards them with a slow, deliberate gait. He was an old man, his wrinkled face painted with intricate patterns. He wore a headdress of feathers, and his eyes seemed to burn with an inner light. It was a shaman, a revered figure of power in the Amazonian tribes. Raphael greeted him with respect, their words a dialect Ethan and his friends didn't understand. The shaman spoke slowly, his voice raspy but commanding. Raphael translated, his face grim. "He says this land is sacred, protected by powerful spirits." The shaman pointed a gnarled finger at them. "He warns us of danger," Raphael continued, his voice hushed. "We have trespassed on forbidden ground. We must leave, or face the consequences." The shaman's gaze was intense, filled with ancient wisdom and a deep connection to this land. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He had scoffed at superstitions before, but there was something about the shaman's presence, his aura of power, that sent shivers down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled into something ancient and dangerous. The shaman melted back into the darkness as quickly as he had appeared. The jungle seemed to sigh, the wind rustling through the trees carrying a new sense of foreboding. Fear hung heavy in the air, thicker than the humid night. Sleep was impossible. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig sent their hearts racing. The growl from earlier echoed in their minds, a promise of danger lurking just beyond the firelight. Hours crawled by, each one an eternity. Ethan scanned the darkness, his senses on high alert. He thought he saw a pair of eyes glinting in the undergrowth, watching them with chilling intensity. He blinked, and they were gone. Had he imagined it, or was something out there, stalking them from the shadows? He whispered his concern to Raphael, who nodded grimly. "Jaguar," he confirmed, his voice barely audible. "He is hunting. We are in his territory." Terror, cold and sharp, pierced through Ethan's exhaustion. They were prey, trapped in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The fire dwindled, despite their best efforts to keep it going. Fear had a way of consuming energy, leaving them drained and trembling. Ethan took turns with Carlos, keeping watch while the others tried to rest. A blood-curdling scream shattered the tense silence. "Elena!" Ethan scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. He rushed towards her tent, Raphael right behind him. The tent was shaking violently, the fabric ripped in places. Elena was huddled inside, her eyes wide with terror, her voice hoarse from screaming. Something was trying to get in, she stammered, pointing a trembling finger at the torn section of her tent. The predator was getting bolder, its hunger driving it closer. Raphael examined the claw marks on the tent, his face grim. "We need to leave," he said, his voice urgent. "Now!" There was no time for argument. They were in serious danger, and they needed to get out while they still could. Adrenaline surged through Ethan's veins, overriding his exhaustion. They worked with frantic haste, throwing their belongings into their backpacks, their movements clumsy with fear. Every second felt like an hour, the jungle pressing in on them, the darkness filled with unseen dangers. "This way," Raphael hissed, leading them away from the riverbank, deeper into the jungle. It felt counterintuitive, but they trusted Raphael's knowledge of the terrain. He moved with a swiftness that belied his age, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. They stumbled through the undergrowth, branches whipping at their faces, thorns tearing at their clothes. Ethan could hear the predator behind them, its heavy breathing getting closer, its frustration growing with every passing moment. They were running on pure instinct now, fear lending speed to their steps. The jungle seemed to close in around them, the darkness suffocating, the sounds of their pursuer echoing through the trees. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs screamed for mercy. Just when they thought they could go no further, a faint glow appeared on the horizon. Dawn was breaking, the first light of a new day filtering through the dense canopy. With renewed hope, they pushed themselves harder, their bodies fueled by adrenaline and the desperate need to escape. They finally stumbled out of the jungle and onto the banks of a wide river. Safety. They had made it. Collapsing onto the muddy ground, they gasped for breath, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and relief. Ethan looked back at the dark wall of trees, his heart still pounding in his chest. The jungle had tried to claim them, but they had escaped its clutches. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, they sat by the river, catching their breath, reflecting on the harrowing events of the night. The jungle, bathed in the soft morning light, seemed almost peaceful, but the memory of their terror was still fresh, a stark reminder of the power of the wild. Ethan had faced death before, but never like this. The Amazon was different. It was a force of nature, both beautiful and deadly. It demanded respect, and it punished those who dared to underestimate its power. He looked at his friends, their faces pale and drawn, but their eyes alight with the spark of survival. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of danger. They had learned a valuable lesson that night, one they would never forget. The Amazon was not to be trifled with. It was a place of wonder, beauty, and unimaginable power.